Hi, and welcome back to the Young Voices podcast, a podcast about how young voices matter, brought to you by the Coaching Hub. I am Mavis Tamaroa, your host, and this week we have with us Edwin Ningal, a third-year population studies student from the University of Papua New Guinea. Edwin, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So on this week's episode, Edwin will be sharing with us his journey as a population studies student. So Edwin, for our listeners who haven't come across you, people who haven't heard about you before, could you briefly introduce yourself to us?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Edwin Ningal. I am 21 years of age and I come from the Eastern Highlands province. In 2020, I was accepted to study at the University of Papua New Guinea under the program of Population Studies and Anthropology. I completed my third year of studies this year and I will be doing my final year of studies next year. Thank you.
So you mentioned that you're in your third year of studies.
Yes.
Could I just ask you, why population studies?
Okay, so back when I started high school, I had developed this special interest of geography, particularly human geography. So I wanted to understand concepts such as why the human population is increasing at an alarming rate, and why and the reasons behind why we have resource scarcity back in our country. So I wanted to find the balance between these two. That is why I advanced in choosing population studies.
So the population studies program, it's not one of the programs that most high school graduates would consider going into first. There's normally like business or science. So what would you say drove you to become a student of the population studies stream?
Okay, so for this, I'd say basically it was my dad. So he has a background in GIS and cartography and all that. So I had, in a way, developed this interest because he was in the picture the entire time. So, and I also had this love for geography ever since I started high school, as I mentioned earlier. So that was basically one of the reasons why I pursued this course of study.
What subjects, or what was your pathway to coming into population studies?
My subjects I took back in high school were that of the social sciences, like economics, history, geography, and then of course there's English and maths. So with that course subject combination, that has pointed me in the direction where I've pursued the program of population studies.
Could you tell us about any of the challenges that you've seen or faced as a population studies student? Yeah.
Back at the university, most students tend to see other courses as being or having more importance than other courses. Mm-hmm. Say for instance the course that I'm studying, population studies, and most people don't see the importance of this course, but I know the importance of this course because I've studied it for the past 3 years, and next year will be my 4th year. Because of this, I've also questioned the choices that I've made to pursue this course.
Since you also said that most people don't see population studies as much of most people don't see the importance of a population study degree. Could you tell us what the career opportunities are like, or what the job market is like for a population study student as yourself?
For anyone graduating in the field of population studies or demography, the job opportunities are out there. Graduates can apply to organizations such as the National Statistics Office, and then of course we have the United Nations and sub-organizations under the United Nations such as UNFPA or UNDP, and pretty much any other organization that deals with population, data, statistics, any of the sort.
We were having a conversation earlier where you mentioned that you see yourself becoming a population, what was it, data analyst?
Data analyst.
Could you just go into detail and tell us what that is?
A data analyst is someone who uses the data that is collected from population censuses and surveys, and they quantify the data and they simplify it down so that it can be used by policymakers and implementers when it comes to implementing basic services.
Edwin, could you just tell us more about the takeaways from studying this population studies program?
The key takeaway for me studying population studies is that the association that I have had with the United Nations Population Fund, because it has, as I've mentioned earlier, it has always been my dream to work for the UNFPA. And in a way that has brought me a step closer to achieving that dream.
So it seems like your coursework has brought you closer to your dreams,
Yes,
basically.
definitely.
Have you ever had to use soft skills during your time as a student?
Oh yes.
Population studies.
Most of the time, yes.
And once you get out into the workforce, would you have to keep using soft skills? Like, how much would soft skills be required on a day-to-day basis as a populations data analyst?
As a population, as anyone, I mean, as a population scientist, you get to deal with people on a day-to-day basis. So it is very important for anyone studying the field of populations or a demographer to have certain soft skills in place so that you know how to approach and also collect data from people, because you'll be dealing with people most of the time. Yes.
Now, before we wrap up, could you just give us and the viewers a piece of advice that has, or some words that have helped you get this far?
Most students nowadays, they tend to isolate themselves, I would say, from the rest, because some of them have this idea that their study is priority and everything else is irrelevant or is nothing but a distraction. So these are certain things that are in the way of you achieving your full maximum productivity level. My advice to the viewers, if you're studying at the tertiary institution, would be to network as much as you can with everyone that you come across, because once you get into the workforce, it's all a matter of being connected. And nowadays we need to be connected to people, especially. Get involved in meaningful youth involvements, whether it be social or academic. It helps build your character as a person, and it also advances you.
Thanks, Edwin, for joining us on our podcast today. I'm sure many people have learned more about the value of a population study degree and more about putting themselves out there when they get into uni.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us this week on episode 2 of the Young Voices podcast. Be sure to tune in next week for our next podcast. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you stop by on our Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages to like, share, and comment. We'll see you soon next week to chase more dreams through coaching and training.